former Vice President Mike Pence is laying the blame for the current conflict in the Middle East squarely on President Biden. In a new op-ed for the conservative National Review, Pence highlights the progress made during the time he was vice president while slamming Biden's agenda, saying, quote, Israel is enduring the worst outbreak of violence in at least 7 years, a direct result of the weakness shown by the Biden administration from its first day in office, adding that many Americans witnessing the recent bloodshed in Israel are perplexed by how quickly violence erupted after years of calm, and concluding that the answer is that President Biden and congressional Democrats have abandoned unambiguous support for our ally Israel, emboldened our enemies, and turned their back on the policy that yielded historic peace deals in the Middle East.
And we're joined now by Chief Political Analyst David Brody. David, so, in the last few months, we've seen very little of the former vice president. The last time we talked about him here, you acknowledged that he's lost a lot of favor with the Trump base. Does speaking out now on the issue of Israel help make some amends?
Well, it depends how you define some. It doesn't make amends. Probably doesn't even make some amends. I mean, there's a bunch of frustration inside the deep red. That's the key part. The deep red of the MAGA base that is not happy with Mike Pence. And op-eds like this aren't going to make too much of a difference. I mean, they're done. They're done with Mike Pence. That's the sense, not only the sense that I'm getting, but talking to folks in that deep red MAGA world. They say he had his chance on January 6th to do something, to at least punt it back to the legislatures, and he wouldn't do that. And it's going to be a problem for him going forward. So, this op-ed hit all the right notes. It's the same Mike Pence we've known for a very long time, but it's a different world post-January 6th.
David, Biden, of course, President Biden was in Dearborn, Michigan, a place that's known for its heavy Arab American population. There were protests there earlier today, and it really exposed the rift among Democrats. Biden, along with Schumer and Pelosi, back Israel's right to defend itself, they say, and are pushing for a ceasefire. The more progressive wing, though, David, wants a more hardline approach. So how does the president navigate this and thread the needle?
Well, it's going to be very difficult, John. But look, I think what the president at this point would need to do is take a page from his own playbook strategy. And what do I mean by that? Look, the White House has said consistently that they're looking at the polls and that the American people support this, the American people support that, and that's why they're going to go forward with their economic plans. It's the same thing on the Middle East. If you look at the polling in America, you will see that the majority of Americans support Israel. I mean, you've got Ilhan Omar and AOC and Bernie Sanders. They are on the far left. They're the outliers. So if Biden is going to go with the outliers on this, and I understand it's the energy in his party from the progressive standpoint, the far progressive standpoint, but it's not going to play well in middle America. It just won't. Because once again, if they want to go with the strategy that they say themselves works, which is look at the polls and the majority of Americans support X, Y, and Z, well, the majority of Americans don't support anti-Semitism rhetoric coming from the far left. So it would probably be a good idea, at least politically, for him to distance himself from that. That's the way out for Biden. Whether or not he'll take it is a whole different matter.
Yeah. David, this is President Biden's first major international crisis. Talk about how much is riding on his ability here to handle this from a leadership standpoint, but also here at home and abroad.
Well, it's definitely important because it's the first one, and of course it's the Middle East, and it also, unfortunately for Biden, goes to a lot of his weaknesses on this issue. What do I mean by that? When you start to increase the funding, or I should say restart the funding to the Palestinian Authority and Hamas and everybody over there in the Gaza Strip, which is exactly what this administration did in the first 100 days, that's going to open yourself up to criticism. So this is tough for the Biden administration. But look, let's also be honest. The Biden administration has made it pretty clear. They didn't want anything to do with the Middle East. They were hoping to kind of just ride that out and just kind of play along on the sidelines. Their obvious focus was China and a lot more with that economic policy. But in terms of the Middle East, they wanted it to kind of go by the wayside. Unfortunately for them, and unfortunately, more importantly for Israel and the innocent lives that are being lost in the Gaza and in Israel, it hasn't happened that way.
All right, CBN's David Brody, thank you as always.
Thanks, David.
Yep, you bet.